Hello, my name's Austen, and this is Trash Talk Podcast, a podcast where we talk comic books, movies, TV shows, and games, all while drinking. And I'm here with my co-host Travis. Travis, how you doing?
I'm always happy to be here, and I'm having a lot of fun, honestly.
Yeah, and this is our Castlevania episode. We'll be talking about the games, but also about the Netflix TV show. And we're here with a special guest. The last episode, we talked about how we're going to have a guest star from games my mom found. And we have Mike calling in. Mike, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good today.
So Mike is from the podcast Games My Mom Found. Talk briefly about your show.
Hey, no problem. We're a gaming podcast where each week we will dive into a retro game and kind of dive into it, let you know what we think about it, if it's something that you should play or something you should stay far away from, and usually go off on crazy antics, but we're found on most podcasting platforms.
What podcasts and platforms you on for people that want to
Stitcher, iTunes are the main ones, Podbean.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so people should check him out on his channel as well. And we're going to be talking Castlevania this episode. Mike, I didn't ask if you have a drink in hand, but if you have a shot or if you have a... Okay, you do? All right. So in the tradition of the show, we do a shot at the beginning of the podcast, or if you just want a beer, just take a big swig of your beer. But before we begin, let's take our shot. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Oh, fun.
Oh, I haven't drank a shot in over a year. Oh.
Really? Oh, yeah.
I don't normally drink.
I don't blame you there. I try not to.
Fun. This should be fun. Yeah, it's mostly for the podcast. All right.
Drink Fireball.
Oh, yep.
Fireman shot glass.
Yeah, well, we're drinking
Respect.
pretty much Fireball. What's it called?
It is, if I can find the bottle, it is Aftershock.
Aftershock. It's pretty much Fireball, except a little bit spicier.
And mixed with rock salt. Or not rock salt, rock candy.
Yeah. Okay.
Rock salt doesn't sound very good there.
No, if we're drinking rock salt, that's not good. All right, so before we start talking about Castlevania, the show, we're going to do as we always do. We're going to do some real news and fake news, where I break down 4 interesting and sometimes ridiculous movie trivia that I found recently. Not trivia, but news that came out. And out of the 4 of them, 1 of them is fake. So you guys have to guess which one is the bit of fake news. And if you guess it right, I have to take a shot. If you guess it wrong, you have to take a shot. So let us begin. Travis, you ready to go?
I am ready.
All right, Mike, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So, I don't know if you guys remember Rush Hour. There was 3 Rush Hour films made in the early 2000s. And there was also, it was like 2 years ago, there was a canceled Rush Hour show. Well, reports say that a movie reboot is in the works. But it's going to be a female-led cast of Rush Hour. And there's no word if the other Rush Hour cast members are going to return this as like a cameo or as bit parts, but they've already attached 1 star, Chinese superstar Bing Bing Lee, who she's super famous. She's like the highest paid Chinese actress in China, and she's been in some American films like X-Men Days of Future Past as Blink, and she's going to be the role that Jackie Chan was in, but there's no casting for the Chris Tucker part. What are your guys' thoughts on this potentially real bit of news? Travis?
Honestly, that'd be kind of fun, a good reboot, and also female leads would be kind of interesting on that take, because of course it was always Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, so yeah, actually I think I'd enjoy that, and it sounds relatively plausible. There we go.
Mike?
I'm pretty sure it's a fact, but I haven't seen Rush Hour movies in so long. I was surprised to hear they're bringing that franchise in some form.
Yeah, fair enough.
But hey.
All right, number 2. Hasbro, we're going to have a bunch of Hasbro news. Hasbro, they make a lot of different toys, and recently they've been doing a lot of different toy movies. Of course, their most popular is, of course, the Transformers films, which they've been doing well with and not so well with. Well, recently they've been doing well because they made that Bumblebee movie that did very well, but...
Critic-wise, not money-wise.
Not money-wise as much as some of the other ones, unfortunately, but it was actually a good movie, not just explosions and girls' asses. But apparently they're going to maybe ruin that, or maybe... Are they going to go back to being bad or good? Because Hasbro is rumored to be bringing together 2 properties they own, the G.I. Joe films and the Transformers films, into a collaborative film that they both work together in the same movie. So you're going to see G.I. Joe and Transformers together. There's no news if it's a G.I. Joe from those two G.I. Joe films they made. The rumor is Mark Wahlberg from those two Michael Bay movies they made will be in the Transformers part of it, but there's not much news on the G.I. Joe part of it. But Hasbro is rumored to bring these two properties together. Travis, your thoughts on this?
I mean, honestly, like, they've been separated and they've already made the movies and they've been no connection in their universes. So that'd be a tough, like, connection to make. Like, they'd have to
How about the reboot? How about if they reboot the G.I. Joe part of it?
I mean, I guess, yeah, that would be a lot easier, but yeah, that'd still be a difficult concept to grasp. But I guess if they really tried, there's a chance they might actually go for it. Okay. And of course, if it's going to bring them money, of course they'd go for it.
Yeah, because they will go for it if it brings them money.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Bay brings them money, they'll go for it.
Yeah. Mike, your thoughts on this?
I think this one is also true. I mean, again, the G.I. Joe franchise, at this point, at least the movie-wise, is dead in the water, so it wouldn't be surprising to see a reboot.
Yeah.
And Transformers, I mean, Bumblebee, I mean, I didn't see it, but I thought it did good.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, we watched it. It's very good.
As far as critics went, it went really good. As far as money, it wasn't quite as good as some of the other ones, but it was still decent.
Yeah.
It's not that hard to be better than some of them, so.
Yeah, that's true. But no, yeah, it was actually good. But
I've only seen a couple of them. I stayed away from most of them.
Okay.
I've seen every single one.
Yeah, well, you did yourself a favor, Mike. All right, number 3, Margot Robbie. She's famous from The Wolf of Wall Street and also Suicide Squad, as well as other movies. Well, she is going to star and produce in a live-action by Hasbro Barbie movie. Hasbro is producing it by different companies actually making it. I don't remember if it's Sony or not. But she is going to be Barbie, and she's going to star as Barbie as well as producing it. And that's all the news I have on that. Travis, thoughts?
That would actually be kind of fun because, like, she could do a whole new take on Barbie, even though it doesn't sound particularly plausible. I don't know. That would be. I would, if they did it, I'd want to see it actually.
Mike?
I'm gonna say this one's false because she's been busy. She's busy with the Birds of Prey movie right now that's coming up that she's writing and directing. And I mean, I could see it. Like, I mean, if you're gonna do something with her, it could work. I mean, she's got enough fan base.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true.
pretty sure that one's false.
All right, and then we're gonna have our 4th piece of news, and then after you guys can tell me which one was the false piece of news.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. Yeah, no, it's good that you tell me as you go what you think is real or not. So now, do you guys remember when we were kids, or even maybe because it's been around so long, when your parents were kids? Do you remember the ViewMaster?
I've heard the name, but I do not recognize it.
It is that red, like, binocular thing where you put, like, little cards in, and it shows you images. You guys remember that?
Yes.
Yeah, I had one as a kid.
Well, somehow Hasbro is trying to produce a ViewMaster movie. Here's what the MGM's motion picture group said about the goal of the movie. It could not happen, but they're actually trying to make it happen. The goal is to create a family adventure integrating the old school turn and click stereotypic device with a modern world of virtual reality. Mike, do you have any thoughts on this?
I'm pretty sure this one is true, actually, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure I heard somebody talking about this on the internet at some point recently. I don't know why, but...
Would you go see a ViewMaster movie?
No, not at all.
Fair enough. Straight to the point. Travis?
Oh God, yes, I would see it, and I would cry at how bad it would be. Because that sounds absolutely horrible. It sounds like a train wreck just waiting to happen.
Why, of all things, do you try and make this into a movie? Are they that desperate?
Money. In reality, it's money.
Okay. All right. That was our 4 pieces of news. Starting with you, Travis. Tell me, out of the 4 ones, I can remind you quickly of each one. Which one was the fake piece of news?
G.I. Joe versus Transformers is my guess. Because in reality, it just sounds too far-fetched, even for Hasbro. it like, for me, it's going above and beyond what I would see them doing.
All right, Mike, you can guess the same or guess something different. It's up to you.
I still say the Barbie one. I'm pretty sure Barbie one's false.
Okay. Well, now we're going to reveal the fake piece of news. The fake piece of news was G.I. Joe and Transformers film. Austen and Mike, we have to take a shot. So, Travis, if you can, pour me a shot.
Oh, absolutely, good sir.
Okay, perfect.
Oh man, unfortunately, I'm sorry, but I actually knew that one was false before we even started.
Aw, dang.
I thought that one was true because I mean, again, to me, it seemed realistic. Like I wouldn't be surprised it did something like that.
I could see where you'd get that concept, but like I said, I already had known it was not ever gonna happen.
Yeah. So, before we go on, so what are your guys' thoughts on the other ones being real? Is this good things or bad things? Because now you know Viewmaster, that Rush Hour. To be fair, Rush Hour with a female reboot. That's not bad. That's a pretty good choice.
It's like a funny comedy movie, buddy cop kind of movie.
That,
so
that
like,
works.
Honestly, you could kind of throw, even though Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker were kind of like iconic, you
Yeah.
could kind of throw anyone and be relatively
The
good.
Viewmaster movie now is 100% happening. It's not fake.
Okay, that's gonna make me cry. I'm gonna go watch it, but it's gonna make me cry.
Mike, what are your thoughts on all these?
Viewmaster just seems stupid as hell. I don't know. And then Barbie, I didn't have any idea they were even doing a Barbie movie with her. I mean, I thought she was busy with like the Birds of Prey movie she's got going on.
Yeah, she seems really busy.
surprised.
Well,
Well,
here's
she's
the
kind of
thing.
like The Rock, just never gives up.
Yeah, she never stops making
Yeah.
movies. Well, originally Amy Schumer was going to be Barbie.
Oh, like a heavy set bar. Actually, that'd be kind
Yeah.
of fun.
No, I don't want to see Amy Schumer in a Barbie movie. Like, I see what you're saying, having something different than just like,
Actually, you're right. No, she's actually a terrible actress.
Yeah,
sorry,
she's
sorry, I
horrible.
forgot about that. She's a good. Well, okay, sorry, mediocre comedian, but
Yeah.
not a very good actress. So yeah, that would have been absolutely
but
horrifying.
she dropped out due to scheduling conflict after everyone reacted poorly to that news decision. So now Margot Robbie's in it, which Margot Robbie, that makes sense for
Yeah,
Barbie.
fan base is already
But
there.
I see what you're saying, Mike. She does seem busy. She's always doing DC movies or other
Yeah,
movies.
that and I hadn't even heard that. Normally I stay up to date on the random crap that's going on.
Yeah.
Thanks to Facebook.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, in the end of the show, we're going to talk some of our other segments like Comic of the Week, Game of the Week. We're going to have one movie in the show where we recommend a show or a movie to us and the audience. And also some junk mail and Duke It Out and Puke It Out, our debate section. But before that, we're going to talk about our main topic of the week, Castlevania, which is on Netflix. It's an anime. It's made in America, but it's anime inspired and based on the Castlevania game series. There's a lot of them, and we're going to talk all about that. But before that, Travis, I haven't, but have you played any of the Castlevania games?
No, I never have. Unfortunately,
Yeah, I haven't. I played briefly yesterday. I was able to find online Castlevania 3 Curse of Dracula, I believe it was called. But Mike, you've played more of them. You haven't played all of them, but you've played some of them. Talk to us about the series of Castlevania.
Well, like one just with the show, like this show is mainly just based on one of them in general, which is kind of not the beginning of the franchise. Well, not the beginning of the timeline, but close to it. Like it's all based on Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse, which is the one that I played a lot of. I never got far as a kid. I could never get anywhere in that game because it's just freaking hard.
Yeah, I played that last night because I was going to test to see if Travis and I could play it for our
good
Trash
game.
Talk Let's Play, and I couldn't get very far in it. I was surprised
It's
at how
really
difficult it is.
Well, just in any of the old school Castlevanias, you have to get used to the fact that you don't jump very high. You're not Mario. Your jumps are very deliberate. Your whipping is very deliberate. You have to get used to that rhythm that the game has, and it doesn't give a lot of. You got to be more exact. Like once you know what you're doing, it become very simple, but it's not an easy game to get the hang of. Like not like Mega Man or Mario or something.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I got from playing that game. So talk to us briefly about there's a lot of games, you can't just simplify it to one, but what's kind of general plot or characters? What's the story with Castlevania, the games?
Okay, I'll give a basic rundown of it. Mainly what the story ends up being like almost all the time is that Dracula either has been resurrected or somebody's trying to resurrect Dracula and he's coming back, and then whoever is the Belmont at the time in most of the games is the one that you play as that takes up the mantle to try to stop Dracula again.
So it's
That's
not
the
just
very
Trevor
basic
Belmont.
version of it. It's not all Belmonts, but it's pretty much. But also, Castlevania series really kind of goes through history. Like you start off, I think it's I can't remember. I think 1300s or so is Castlevania 3. I mean, I know the very first one is in story timeline wise is Lament of Innocence, which
Okay.
is a really good game.
How many games in total are there for Castlevania? I'm gonna take my shot
over
now.
20.
Lazy.
It's. I mean, some aren't considered part of the story though. Like they're not considered canon anymore. There's one for Game Boy not considered canon. There's a couple ones that are remakes of the earlier ones. Like they remade the first one multiple times.
Yeah, and there's also the one for the phone that I saw in that. There's a video to the audience that by Game Fum that describes all the Castlevania history, but they go into the phone ones for the smartphones that is also not canon, but also kind of rewrites
That must be a new one because was that one of his newer videos? I watched that video twice, that whole timeline. I don't remember that one. Maybe I skipped that one.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I know, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about though. They did do some phone stuff.
Yeah, so it's a wide history. There's a lot of games. Sometimes they probably contradict each other. They rewrite things. But as you said, the show kind of follows one or two of the games for the most part.
Mainly just Castlevania 3. I mean, like the first season is probably like the first, depending on first like 2 or 3 levels of Castlevania 3, where you get up to where you meet Sypha or Sypha, however they pronounce her name.
I think it's Sypha.
Yeah, you meet her, and in the Castlevania 3 game, the NES American translation, they call her a he. So I always thought it was a guy until way later on to find out it's not a guy because they mistranslate in that game.
Wow, I actually read that when I was looking for facts about this.
It's like, he will join you. Like, okay. And then at the very end, which I never saw the ending until I was an adult and Googling it, you see her hair down, he's standing on the mountain with her if you beat the game with her.
Oh, okay. So you have companions that kind of join you in the game, not just yourself, you're saying?
Yeah, like in the show, he gets his 2 companions is kind of much how the game is, except there's also Grant, which is a pirate that they just skipped out completely. That's part of the game also.
Oh, okay, interesting. So, from what you know about the series or what you've played about the game series, where would you recommend people start? Like, you could recommend the first episode, or first game, but where would be a good place to start in terms of playability, but also lore to the franchise?
Symphony of the Night, which is the first PlayStation 1 game, where it starts entering what's called the Igarashi Castlevanias, which is the director of them. But what they are, they're much more Metrovania style, and they also have RPG mechanics. You can level up, you get new equipment, and they're much easier, much more forgiving to play than the original side-scrollers.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good games too. Like most of those are almost all the Metrovania style ones are highly regarded to people.
Yeah. And what do you say that was called again?
There's Castlevania Symphony Night is the first one.
Okay. Maybe we'll play that one later.
It's also on Xbox Live. It's also on, they just released on PS4 with the Castlevania Rebirth, I think it was called. It comes out also with Rondo of Blood, which is one of the last, if not the last 2D side-scroller one that's really freaking good, but it's not easy.
Yeah. All those old games, like going back and playing them, all the old games are much harder to play than the ones now. Just not because the technology is different, but because they made them much harder, which is kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, especially at that time, a lot of it was like, how can we make this game last longer? Because technically, a lot of these games, you can beat them in an hour if you know what you're doing. So if you make it harder, then it feels like, oh, I played this for a month and I finally beat it. Like that. Yeah. That was the whole what they were going for back then, and they didn't want you to rent it.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, well, we got a bit of the history. And now we're going to talk about Netflix. Yeah, there's a lot to the history. More than we covered.
I know the series very, very well.
Yeah, no, definitely. No, that's good. And now we're going to talk about the show. Because Travis and I didn't play the games. You've played the games, so we're going to be able to talk about from people who haven't haven't played the games and people who have played the games and watched the show afterwards. But yeah, Castlevania on Netflix. This show got started mostly because of Warren Ellis, who is a comic book writer. He's wrote a lot of Planetary and also some Moon Knight comics. He's a very good writer. And he wrote, usually for shows, there's a different writer for each episode for the most part because there's a writing room. But for this show, Warren Ellis wrote every single episode of Season 1 and Season 2, and he kind of produced it. So it got started because of him, and Netflix believed in his vision enough to give them a high budget to make the show what he wanted and also have the look that it had. Before we talk about the show and what's it about, let's talk about how it looks. Because with animated shows, and any show in general, a show can be judged by its looks, either cinematography wise, but in this case, how it's animated. Travis, talk about the animation style that's used in Castlevania.
All right, so honestly, I'm not gonna lie. It's probably one of the best, as far as anime goes, one of the best looking shows I have ever seen.
And that's saying something because you are a big anime guy.
Relatively, I'm not as big as some people, like some of the other YouTube channels, but I do watch quite a bit. Like, it's one of my main sources of entertainment, so I do watch quite a bit, and it is by far, like, just the art style is immaculate, and they put so much detail into it. It's almost like it's hard to look at sometimes because you're trying to take in everything, the trees, the buildings, the people, the animals, like all at once, and it almost in a way kind of looks like real life, even though you can tell, of course, that it's animated.
Yeah, it's got a really good animation style to it. With like some animation, it's kind of plain 2D because it's about the writing, the story, rather than the animation style. Because shows don't get a huge budget like a Pixar film where it's a 3D CGI film, but the animation style in this is really, really good.
Yeah, and in a lot of other anime shows, like when they throw CGI into it, you can really tell because, of course, it's a much different style in comparison to regular 2D anime.
Yeah, but the 2D animation in this works really good. It's really good.
Yeah, so this, even when they throw a bit of CGI into it, it just falls into it, and it looks perfect almost.
From a visual aspect, Mike, because you've played the games, you know what they look like, what the world represents. How did this work for you visually as part of the show, but also as someone who's played the games?
I mean, like when it first came out, I did like the whole animation of it. How it's very violent, but it's also very vibrant with the colors, and you have a lot of action. And I thought they did a very good job with it, just like how everything pops out.
Yeah, agreed. And no, agreed. The animation's really good. And in my opinion, the writing is superb. But something that's a lot of people talk about for this Castlevania show is that in the anime world, the episodes that it has, it's very short. The first episode has only 4 episodes, which when I was in college at that time, I just watched during a period between 2 of my classes. The second season, there's more. There's 8 episodes. But in total, 12 episodes for 2 seasons. That's not that much, especially for an anime show. Or even a Netflix show, because Netflix usually produces their live-action shows for 10 to 13 episodes per season. But let's talk about, does this help, hinder, or does it not matter to help or hinder the show? Travis?
Personal opinion, as far as the first season goes, I thought it was way, way too short for what I wanted out of it. Just because, like, of course, like you said, you got through it within a period between classes in college. So I think, honestly, they could have put at least a few extra episodes in there and really added a lot to it. But for the amount that it had, they put so much story and so much detail into it that I still loved it, like, nonetheless.
Yeah, for me, the first season was too short, and that could have been because, I don't know exactly, but it could have been maybe they were just testing it to see how well people liked it before approving it. But probably 8 episodes per season would be good, because I felt like the second season having 8 episodes was perfect. Because with some shows, don't overdo it. I use this as an example, but CW with their superhero shows having like 23 episodes per season is ridiculous, and they're just constantly having what an anime would call a filler episode. Having 8 episodes are perfectly trimmed so that every episode matters and counts. It works perfectly for me. The first season, when there was only 1 season, it was a little bit of, oh, I really liked it, but it was a little bit too short for me. It could have been more, but it could have been because they were testing the waters. But overall, yeah, keep it short. Don't just bloat it up with like 20 episodes per season. Mike, what is your thoughts on the episode count for this show?
I mean, a lot of it is you have to kind of look at it as like the both the season, not as separate seasons, but as all as like one story essentially. Because I mean, the first season was so short; it was really just, hey, are people interested? Hey, is this worth putting more money in? And the second season, when they really started to dive into the story, because even in the first season, you don't really have a full story other than the bishop is evil and we're gonna go kill Dracula. Like, you didn't really have much of a season in the average show.
Yeah, the first season was pretty much, as like you said,
Yeah.
The bishop is a bad guy. He did a bad thing. He mad fucked up, killing Dracula's wife, which we should talk about. In the games, from what I know, what I researched, Dracula doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have that motivation, right?
No, he does not in the original Castlevania 3. I don't remember if they said it in the original 3, but in Symphony Night, which takes place later on in the story, you actually have a scene where he sees Alucard will see his mother being burned at the stake, except it's not his mother and it's a succubus. But they do talk about that's what drove him insane. I can't remember if they mentioned that in the original NES. I don't think they, maybe in the booklet, but I can't remember.
Okay, yeah. Because for me, for the show, it made him more than just a villain. Because Dracula is supposed to be the villain of the show, but it made him more than that because in the show, right from the first episode, we're introduced to a human woman that befriends him and wants to learn about science and wants to learn about medicine, and they become a couple, and he loves her, and he kind of becomes a different person because of it. But the humans, because they're so primitive, they burn her at the stake because they think she's a witch, and that's what starts this whole Dracula's revenge. And like what you said, the first season's mostly just the bishop is bad. He burned her at the stake for us, and Dracula is mostly in the first episode, and then the rest of the episode is about him sending his forces to the town, and Belmont is trying to save them from just getting wiped out. The second season goes more into the plot, and we kind of resolve everything at the end. And overall, yeah, 12 episodes, they were able to wrap things up well. But now let's talk about the characters, because in my opinion, they did a very good job with the characters. Very well developed characters, well written, and also they're able to take a lot from the games. And you can talk to us about how original they are or how much they take from the games. But yeah, let's first. I already talked a little about Dracula, but with each character we're going to talk about, we're going to do what we did with our Punisher episode, where we rate a character from 1 to 3. 1 being you didn't like them, you don't like that character. 2, they were pretty good, they're all right as a character. 3, you like them, they were a good character. Let's talk about Dracula. I already talked about him. I felt like they gave him good motivation. He's trying to wipe out the world because of what they did to his wife, the one person he actually loved. And at the second season, he's kind of drained. And even though he's the most powerful vampire, he has weaknesses. So easily I give him a 3. Dracula, the antagonist, is an antagonist that, like some very well-written characters, he's a character we actually like. Which is why we'll talk about later a different character. They had to make a character that was so evil and bad, we had to hate her instead because he was so likable. Travis?
So I'm definitely going to give Dracula 3 as well because I just love the way he was written. I love the way he was drawn, and like as you said, his motivation was justified at the end of the day. Well, relatively justified. Killing all the community is a bit on the extreme, but
Yeah.
But no, I absolutely loved his character, and I'm not going to agree with you. I will never say he is the villain. I'm going to say the church was the villain, and that's the end of story for me.
Yeah, no, definitely in the first season, the church is definitely the villain because they fucked up, and I definitely felt bad. It's like, wow, you just murdered this guy's wife. He loved her. But the second season, they're not really featured in it.
They're not, but at the end of the day, they are, because they were the ones who originally fucked up, and they never took responsibility for what they did.
Yeah.
In reality, like in comparison to like the rest of the story, they never took responsibility. So at the end of the day, the church was always the villain, and maybe I guess you could add the character that we'll go on to later, the female.
Oh, Camilla, yeah.
Camilla. But yes, but no, Dracula was never the villain for me. I loved his character so much.
All right, Mike, talk to us about what you thought, if he was truly a villain or not, and also what you thought about Dracula as a character.
I would also still say 3 also, that's like you guys, but, I mean, Dracula, in the first I consider him the villain just because he was killing everybody, but you do have a point, like, he was provoked to do something that he didn't really mean to, but at the same time, well, I also know, like, in this show, I don't really talk about the background of Dracula, which is from one of the Castlevania games, which is pretty close to what I think they were basing this on. I mean, the same idea of that character. Where he was a human, he lost his wife at the time, tried to resurrect her, it didn't work, and then he ended up finding power from another vampire, and then he ends up teaming up with Death, and that's how he becomes Dracula, at least in the game. But there's in the PS2 games. But back to what we were saying. No, I didn't really consider him villain. I mean, the church, No, I did consider him a villain because he did kill everybody. The church is partly a villain, but I mean, and definitely, especially the second season, Carmilla is the one that really takes center stage as the villain, and a lot less of Dracula.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, on to our second character, which is the main protagonist of the show, which is Trevor Belmont. And we'll talk about his other supporting characters as part of his team. But yeah, Trevor Belmont, also another great character. Trevor comes from a family that they are known to hunt vampires and other creatures, but they're all wiped out at this point. He's the last remaining bloodline, and he's the only one that's there, and he joins up on this quest to try to stop Dracula, but he's not a perfect character. He's got flaws. He's kind of a drunk. He's kind of an asshole. But by the end of the season, he's a great fighter, and he's on this quest, and he's 100% loyal to his team. And he's got a lot of humor to him. He's a funny guy. He's kind of an asshole, but he's funny for being so. So, once again, easy a 3 for him. Travis?
I'm not going to agree with you on this one. I'm going to give him a 2. And
Oh.
for the one simple fact, even though I liked absolutely everything about him, his character, his attitude, like literally the way he was written, everything. The only thing I didn't like was his art style.
How so?
Just like the way he was drawn, he was never drawn to be like this big badass kind of hero. What he should have been, in my opinion, anyway. He was kind of like your average every dude who dressed in relatively nice clothes. So, like at the end of the day, even though he was an amazing character, just the way they drew him and the way he fought and stuff, I think they could have done a little bit better. And that's the only reason I'm giving him a 2 out of 3.
Oh, really? What about, did you like or didn't like his fighting style? By the end of the show, he was using a mixture of sword fighting and also the Morning Star. He didn't use that for most of the show, but he did use the Morning Star at the very end.
I liked it better than the first season and the first part of the second season, but still, even by then, I think they almost could have done just a tiny bit better even with that, because they could have put a little bit more emphasis into it to really show like his strength and his bronze.
Okay, Mike, talk to us about Trevor Belmont, the character, and also tell us a little bit about Trevor Belmont from the games.
Okay. I'd also give him kind of a 2, because Trevor Belmont's not my favorite of the Belmonts in general. But with the show, I didn't like how much of an asshole he is in the beginning. I mean, it fits the character because he's an outcast, and the world hates him, so I mean, I understand it, but I didn't like it at first. I mean, especially in season 2, as you get farther, and when he gets the vampire killer whip, or the Morning Star, then I liked him a lot more, but that's also because I like the fact that he had the whip from the game.
Yeah, true.
In the series, I mean, they only really touch on, he's only in 2 different games. He's in Castlevania 3, and then he's also in Curse of Darkness, which is where Hector and Isaac are from. That's where they were first introduced.
Oh, okay. Huh.
But they're all, most of the characters in the show are from the games. One isn't, which I'm sure you'll bring it up and I'll mention then, but, so I knew them. But I mean, like with Trevor, I mean, I don't know a whole lot with him, like from the games. I never played Curse of Darkness. I played 3, but it's an NES game, so there isn't like a lot of in-depth with it. But I mean, besides him being an asshole, I liked it more in season 2 as he started getting closer to with Alucard and Sypha or Syphia.
I think Syphia. I don't know. We're about to talk about her
right now.
Yeah.
So I'm a little not as clear-headed as I normally am when I record.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, well, let's talk about the girl that we don't know how to pronounce her name. Syphia? I think it's Syphia.
I think it's Sypha.
Sypha.
Sypha
No,
sounds like
I think you're
so
right.
I'm not sure.
Sypha makes sense.
All right, we're going with Sypha. Viewers, if you're listening to us, and if we are wrong, please tweet at us or email us and tell us that we're a bunch of idiots. Well, Syphia, for me, she has a quote at, I think it's the second to last episode of season 2, where she says, "I'm good, right?" And Trevor says, "No, you're the greatest." And that's what I think about her. Out of all them, out of the main 3 characters of protagonists, which is Alucard, her, and Trevor Belmont, for me, she's the best character. She's kind of the sweetest. She's not an asshole like the other 2. And she's a sorcerer, so she has a lot of cool powers. She doesn't rely on melee combat, which makes her a little bit more unique. And she's not just like a sorcerer like other animes or different kinds of entertainment kind of use. Like she has many different kind of powers that she uses, and they all work very well within the fight sequences. Like sometimes I worry for her because she's not like the others that have like armor or anything to protect her. She's kind of just wearing blue robes, but she protects herself with all this magic, and how she uses it within fight sequences is very cool. But just besides how she fights, as a character, she's very sweet and nice, and with also a little bit of sassiness to her. And she's great. She might be my favorite character, easily a 3 again.
So I'm going to agree with you on this one. I'm going to give her a 3 out of 3 just because actually one thing I love about her is her sassiness. Just in particular towards Trevor is like my epitome. Like she's top rank out of all three. And like also as you said, her fighting style, even when she's not fighting for herself, even when she's just assisting the other two in some sort of way to help them either like force themselves towards the enemy or to protect them from the enemy, she is incredible. And her powers, like ranging from fire to ice to stone, like every power she has is actually like really really nice. And the way she's drawn out and the way she's like portrayed, I like absolutely incredible.
Yeah, she's great. All right, Mike, when I have you speak, Travis, me and you are going to do a shot or a big swig of beer. And then, Mike, when you're done talking, you can take a big swig of beer or a shot as we are at our 30-minute mark.
Oh, I would also say a 3. I mean, again, I had no, like, when it came to the original game, I never used her because, one, I thought it was a he. 2, I didn't like the way that she played in the original NES game. But coming from, like, the show-wise, I thought she was awesome. I mean, I thought the spells were cool, and it was a very good compliment to the other two. And I'll have some more Land Shark Lager. That's what I'm drinking right now for beer.
Oh, nice. All right. Yeah, great character. All right, we're going to talk about last of the main 3 heroes. If we'll talk briefly about how they work together, actually try to integrate that into your character opinion on Alucard, who is Dracula's son, and if you spell his name backwards, that apparently is how you spell Dracula, because that's what I learned today in the IMDb fact check about the show.
Yep.
I'm glad you're using fact check. That's really nice.
Yep. So Alucard, the son of Dracula and the human mother, he joins up with them. At first, he's kind of a rumor. People think of him as the warrior that's kind of buried underneath the city. But he originally fights Trevor Belmont, but then he joins the group as the third member of the posse, and he joins them in their fight against Dracula. And he is a little bit more stone-faced than Trevor Belmont because he has a lot more going against him. He kind of comes from a messed up background, of course, and now he's here to try to kill his father. That's his only quest. But he's more than just a stone-faced killer. He's got a little bit of sass to him as well. And he's some great banter between him and Trevor Belmont. I'm going to give him a 2. He's a good character. I really liked him. He's not as much developed as Syphia, and Trevor Belmont, but he has some great lines with him and Trevor Belmont, with Trevor Belmont and Alucard insulting each other. Like, they go very well against each other, and he's very cool in his fight sequences because he has this really long rapier, and he doesn't just use it in his hand to fight. He can also levitate it and use that. He can just kind of like shoot his sword at people, and he can kind of bring it back, which is kind of interesting, and he can kind of float in midair. He can jump very far distances. So he works very well in combat, and he's a pretty interesting character. He's just not used a ton and not expanded on a ton, but he's a good character as well. Travis?
I am actually going to give him a 3, not so much because I think he's the greatest character, but because I respect him. And the reason I respect him is because, of course, he is going after his dad, someone he respects and admires, but he knows you have to go after him in order to stop him from wiping out all of humanity. So just for that alone, I respect the character. And the fact that also I do like the way he's written more than Trevor. And even though he's not given like quite as much screen time as him, because of course for most of the first season he was sleeping. So I like him. I like the way he was written. And of course I do like his fighting style. With the rapier, he is like almost unstoppable. He's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, no, that's good points. Mike?
I'd also give him a 3 too. I mean, I like you guys are saying, like the fight. I like the fact that they included so many things from the game that he does into the show, like when he turns into the wolf and near the end of season 2.
Oh, yeah. I
All
almost
that's
forgot about
directly
that.
from the game. Plus, Alucard plays a huge part in the series, so I like him in general. But
That makes sense. Okay, now these characters were not introduced in season one. What we've talked about were mostly season one characters, but season two they introduced a lot of characters for Dracula's army. Not only his army, but his generals, his war generals. But let's talk about his forge masters, Hector and Isaac. These were characters that their whole purpose was that they're there to build undead creatures for Dracula's army, but they're more than that. They're both humans, which makes them unique compared to all the other vampires in his war council, and he trusts them more than most of the vampires in his war council. Isaac is comes from a background that he really, really respects Dracula, and he will fight to him for him to the end of his days. But he comes from a really messed up background that he pledged his love to a different forge master. Maybe it was a blacksmith, and all he wanted to do was learn from him, but that blacksmith just whipped him constantly and just tortured him because he admitted his love for him, and also that he caught him sneaking peeks into his journal trying to learn his knowledge. So he just beat him endlessly until Isaac killed him. Hector comes from a background where his pets died and he learned how to resurrect them. So he's kind of messed up because he's someone that comes from a background where even as a young person, he was bringing his loved pets back to life. Let's talk about both of them. For me, Hector, and stop me if I mixed up the two, but Hector is getting a 2 from me because he comes from a very interesting background, but Carmilla, she manipulates him from the show, and we do need one character to do that, but he's kind of an idiot because he's kind of fallen for the seductress vampire who kind of manipulates him for the show. I'm just like, wow, you are a real dumbass. But he's interested in that. I like how he has a pet. It's like a pug that's undead.
I
And
like it too.
the whole time, even though he does kind of in a way betray Dracula, he doesn't want Dracula to win. He is on Dracula's side. He's not trying to make it so Carmilla overthrows Dracula, but he's trying to assist her for the benefit of Dracula. So he's kind of an interesting character, just he's kind of a dumbass. So he's getting a 2 out of 3. But Isaac, easy 3. Like, he's always there, and he kills Godbrand, who we're going to talk about soon. He's one of the vampires that betrays Dracula, and he's always there, even at the very end where he is going to die, but he will be there always for Dracula until Dracula throws him into a different world, or part of the world to save him, but he's loyal to the end for Dracula. Travis, talk to us about Isaac and Hector.
So as far as Hector, actually, to be honest, I'll just get straight out to the point here. I'm going to give both of them a 2 for different reasons.
Okay.
First of all, Hector, mainly because, as you said, he's very stupid.
Yeah.
And as far as Isaac, I'm going to give him a 2, mainly because of his biggest downfall, which is his loyalty to Dracula, which is what almost gets him killed by the end. And, like, even though both of them are very different, they all have, of course, very similar qualities. So, of course, they both try to create and assemble super soldiers for the Dracula army, which, like, in that is, of course, like one of the best jobs you could ever have as a human. Like, that's just, you're incredible. And, I mean, like, the way the characters were written, I do like them. Like, they were written very well, and, of course, like, kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. Like, one was just, he was kind of messed up as a child, and he enjoyed recreating dead animals to be his pets. The other one actually wanted to create humans, resurrect dead humans in order to help, like, feed armies and stuff, to give them extra troops and stuff. So both of them are, like, the opposite end of the spectrum, but they also have similar qualities and kind of almost equal in parts. But, no, overall, I enjoyed both the characters, even though neither of them were my favorites.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mike, talk to us about Hector and Isaac in the show, and also from what you know and played from the video games.
I know Hector, I give him a 3 because I like Hector. I mean, the show, I can understand where you have someone that's very naive and is tricked and manipulated by someone that's very conniving. Because even when he turns against Dracula, if I remember correctly, he didn't really want to at first. He thought he was doing the right thing, or he fell into it and got to a certain point where there's no way out. And that's why he becomes like her slave, essentially. But Hector, I never played Curse of Darkness, which is the one that Hector stars in, as you play as him, and then that's also where you fight Trevor. Also, he's in that game. And that game takes place I think it's a few years after Castlevania 3 ends. And then for Isaac, I'd give him a 1 because I just didn't like him. I mean, they did a good job with the character in the show. I just didn't like him. I just didn't like how maybe how evil he was. And in the game, I really don't like the game version of him. But that's neither here nor there. But again, he's also only the Curse of Darkness game, which I've never played, unfortunately.
Yeah.
For PS2.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I'm gonna talk briefly. Travis and Mike, take a shot of your beer or beer. Words. A shot of liquor or beer. Travis, where are you going? All right, Travis is going to the bathroom. All right, talk to you later, Travis. Yeah. Okay.
You don't have to announce it.
Travis just said I don't have to announce it. Fair enough, Travis. Next time I'll just pause the episode. I'm sorry, Travis. Please love me and forgive me. He's gone. He doesn't forgive me. All right. So the last 2 characters we're going to talk about as main characters are Godbrand and Carmilla. Is it Camilla or Carmilla?
I think it's Carmilla, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So Godbrand is one of the war generals. He is a Viking vampire, which is great. He's kind of the most barbaric character in the show. A lot of characters make jokes about him as the one character that the only things he does is kill, build boats, and fuck. And
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, he's just a Viking vampire, which is a great concept. He's a whole fight sequence where he's slaughtering different soldiers, and then he just lands on his Viking warship. And he even talks about how vampires aren't supposed to cross running water, but he can because he's on boats, and he loves building boats, and Vikings are supposed to be on boats, which is kind of hilarious. And he's the first character to actively betray Dracula, and that's where Isaac kills him. They don't really talk about him much afterwards. And Carmilla is the last war chief to come in, and she comes in and she just right from the beginning, she's the seductress of a vampire, and she just calls out Dracula to his face in front of all the other vampires. She calls out his motivation, what he's doing, and also why he never turned his human wife into a vampire, which is fair logic, but she calls him out in front of all the other vampires. So she's got a lot of brass to her. And the whole season she's kind of out to betray Dracula and try to make his army and his motivation try to wipe out the humans into her reason. And she manipulates a lot of people along the way. Both of these characters I'm going to give a 2 to, mostly because Godbrand isn't in it a ton, but in the moments he's in it, he's kind of an idiot, but he's pretty funny. He's just not used a ton, but he's pretty good. And Carmilla is the character, I like her because we're supposed to hate her, and I do hate her. She's kind of a manipulative bee, and she just seduces and manipulates everyone around her. It makes sense for a show because she's the one character we're supposed to hate, because Dracula, for most people, it makes sense what he's doing. And at this point, he's kind of an old, tired man, but she is the one that we're supposed to really hate. And by the end of the show, looks like season 3, she's going to be the main villain going forward. Both of them get 2. She gets a 2 only because I just hate her, but I hate her because of how well she's written. Travis, talk to us about Carmilla and as well Godbrand.
You'll have to remind me on Godbrand.
Godbrand is the Viking. Viking vampire with the red beard and hair.
Okay, perfect. That's my memory. All right. So as far as Camilla, I'm going to give her a 3 because I did not hate her. I loved her.
Oh.
Because just like Dracula, she stayed true to her nature. If you ever remember that scene where she was the kind of the pet of one of the old vampires of old, and she wound up throwing him out the window after he abused her.
Yep.
She has stayed true to that nature pretty much ever since, and she's kind of been a little bit on the manipulative side, a little bit on the cunning, conniving side, and I genuinely love her character and the way she was written, and of course, she's hot, so
Fair enough.
at the end of the day, just might be a vampire,
All right, talk to us about Godbrand.
Godbrand,
I actually agree with what you're saying about her. That's a fair point.
as far as Godbrand goes, I'm going to give him a 2. I liked his character, but my problem with him at the end of the day, he was just a little bit too far on the stupid side for me to really respect him.
Yeah.
Because, he was the Viking, he was badass, and of course he was a vampire, so he was really strong. But at the end of the day, he was way too easy to manipulate, and he wasn't all that, into Dracula's plan, which Dracula was his almighty king, so he really should have been. And so, at the end of the day, I'm going to give him a 2.
All right, Mike, talk to us about these 2 vampires.
With Carmilla, I give her a 3 because, again, she's in the game, so I kind of liked her. Plus, I just liked her in the show. I mean, as you guys were saying earlier, she's definitely, if they go the way that they're headed, they're going to kind of make her the villain of season 3 and make Hector kind of stand out more. Because if they follow the games, these Alucard should be gone until 100, 200 years later in the series. Should be a very long time he shows up again. But when it comes to God and with Carmilla also, before I move on, she's in the Castlevania 2. She's a floating head, but NES game again, where they're resurrecting Dracula after Simon had killed him, which is so many years. Simon is Trevor's grandson, to kind of put it in perspective.
Oh, okay.
So that's when she shows up. So if they tend to kind of follow that story, which is where they should go next. I don't think they will. I think they're going to skip ahead to when Alucard wakes up again. But that's eventually in season 3 or 4. I think is where they're going to go. But I thought she was good. I thought she did a good part in manipulating what was happening in the story and pushing it forward and giving you somebody to really kind of hate, because Dracula, he just wants to get revenge. He just wants to end the human race and be done with it. And they start realizing that he's not trying to get food for us. He's trying to kill everybody. So then they turn against him because, like any creature, they want to survive. And when it comes with Godbrand, he wasn't a part of the games at all. He's a completely new character for this show. I'd give him a 2. I didn't really care for him much. I mean, he was kind of funny, but he didn't. I was ready for him to get killed I wanted Trevor to kill him, but at least they killed him. I was happy.
Okay. Makes sense. All right. Before we move on, let's talk about the main groups of characters. No ratings or whatever. Let's just talk about what you thought about them. For the main Warriors 3, which is Syphia, and Trevor Belmont and Alucard. And also about the Warriors. I'm sorry, not the Warriors. The Vampire War Council of Dracula, Hector and Isaac, Godbrand, Carmilla, and those other vampires that they don't speak, they just do their thing.
There's the Egyptian one, I don't remember their name, but I mean, they had a nice, because again, I think a lot of they're trying to show you in this series is that when he's attacking, they're really taking over lots of different land. They are killing tons of people. Is essentially what they show a little bit in the show, but I think that's the grasp of what he's doing. This is supposed to be one of the great wars in the series.
Yeah, exactly. No, that makes sense. You're right. There's a bunch of them that have different things. There is one Egyptian one. There's ones that can change their shape. There's a lot of cool ones. They don't have any lines, but all those other vampires.
Just kill them off.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hopefully
But they are very cool.
Hopefully they go into more detail as the series progresses, if it does even progress from here.
No, they've confirmed there's going to be a season 3.
Oh, perfect. Well, then hopefully
I doubt it costs that much to make for what they're doing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, Konami doesn't do anything with Castlevania anymore, any of their franchises, so it's good to see them actually doing something with what they have.
Yeah, when I was doing research into the game before this, I saw they haven't made a game for this, which is one of their most popular franchises they own in years, because they've just been focusing on other things, which is
Pachinko
weird.
machines. They just make gambling now.
Wow.
That's mainly what Konami has done with most of their franchise. There was a Metal Gear Solid, I can't think of the name. There's a Metal Gear Solid with the zombies, and also the name is escaping me. And then they haven't really done anything with Castlevania other than the mobile games, but they haven't done much.
Wow.
Not in years.
Wow, that's too bad. Well, I'm glad Netflix is actually doing something and doing something very well with it. For
Oh yeah, no,
me,
it's a very good show. And I mean,
oh
even as
yeah,
like a fan of the game, it connects to you well.
yeah, and that's rare for especially video game series because let's be honest, video game movie adaptations.
Are horrible.
You said very
Mortal
well.
Kombat. Come on now.
Yeah,
But most are, yes.
yeah, most are, yeah.
Mortal Kombat's not good, but it's a fun movie. But
Actually,
that's a whole other story.
that's the only one I kind of respect in a way.
Yeah, the
But-
Mortal Kombat, the first one. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's not that
It holds
bad.
up.
Yeah, other than that, most of them have been absolutely horrible.
Even the ones that come out recently that they should be better because they're not like Mortal Kombat, which was made in like 2000, but they're just not good. Because sometimes it's hard to adapt a video game that sold over many hours into a 2-hour movie. But this, like what you said, it does a very good job, and I feel like any Castlevania fan will be happy with this series.
I think that's because it's a TV show. They've always tried to adapt them to movies, but if they actually tried to adapt them to a TV show, I think they do 10 times better. Just saying.
Mike, as someone who's played the games and knows more about the history than us, could they make this into a movie, either live action or animated, or do you think this is the only way to go?
You could have done live action. You just pick one of the games essentially and follow that story. Because all the games are close to the same thing. Dracula's resurrected. Go kill him. You could turn it into something within that castle and try to. But the series is probably the best way to do it.
That makes sense. Okay.
I think you could have pulled off a movie with some of the stories.
Huh. So would you like Netflix to make a live action or animated movie at some point, or are you just like, yeah, just keep going with the show that you're doing?
This is essentially an animated movie. I just have to keep going with this.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's close enough. It's one cohesive story, splitting apart just to call it episodes, but it doesn't feel like episodes.
Well, even though it doesn't feel like it, that's kind of what it is. Like a TV show is kind of an episode after episode that goes on for quite some time, which is allows them to do what they really need to show and tell. So I think a show is really the only way to go if you're going to do an adaptation of a game.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. All right.
Mortal Kombat was 95, by the way.
It was really? It was 1995?
Damn, that was when I was first born. Holy crap.
Annihilation came later, but I can't remember when Annihilation came.
Wow. Oh my god, I didn't realize that.
Respect to 1995 right now.
Wow, 1995. Wow. What's been the best use of a video game series besides Castlevania? A video game movie or series?
In my personal opinion, Mortal Kombat, I guess, honestly.
Like for successful for a franchise, Resident Evil, probably.
Actually, that one was pretty decent, I will admit.
Okay.
Some of them are pretty good. I like the first two a lot, but again, you had kept going. They made 6 of them, so
they made
all
6 of
money.
those?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I haven't seen all of them yet, but I
haven't seen one of them. I played Resident Evil 5 though.
Yeah. I would, if you get the chance. They're kind of corny, but the first two are. First one's a good horror movie.
Yeah.
Third one is garbage. Fourth one is we can do 3D. Let's do 3D. I only seen it once. I don't remember a lot about it. I don't remember liking it either. I never saw the last one, but no, I think they're good movies. But I'm a big RE fan, so that's a whole other topic.
Okay. Huh. Well, some way we should watch all of them, and we can do a series review on the series. That'll be fun. Okay.
They're good. They'll give you a lot to talk about with the films.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, no, that's what I know about them is there's a lot to talk about because they adapt the video games well, but also badly on some things.
From what I've seen, yeah.
But yeah, so
was its own world essentially.
Yeah, that's what I heard is kind of its own thing. So what's our thoughts on the 2 different groups of characters, all the vampires of the group, as well as the protagonists? For me, both are very well done. The protagonists, the 3 characters, Syphia, Chura Belmont, and Alucard, they work very well as a group. They just, how they deliver lines to each other, how they grow as friends, especially by the end. And by the end, when they actually fight Dracula and especially when they fight his war generals, that is an amazing fight because they've learned how to fight together and use all their strengths together to beat the enemy. They work so well together. And Dracula's army, it's very interesting how they did because they're not all loyal to him. So it's kind of a House of Cards situation where he's at the top, but there's other people trying to vie for the throne. And I like how they throw in the human characters. You know more about the game, so I didn't know that. For me, they could have thrown in all vampire characters and I wouldn't have noticed. But I like how those vampire characters were very jealous of the two human forge masters, which were top of the generals. And then Carmilla came in there and kind of messed up everything to try to make her own thing. And that was very interesting. So both different groups of characters. In this show, some shows are led by one character that's very well done. Everyone did very good. Every character was well written and each side had its own motivations and stuff. And I don't know, I like how each team worked. Travis, you want to talk to us about those groups?
I will say with the first season, it's more of a one character on one character. It's kind of Dracula versus Trevor Belmont. But by the time the second season is, it's definitely a team versus a team. And even though the protagonist team is a lot smaller, I think they have just enough might to them that they're actually like really, really good and really, really competitive throughout the series. So honestly, I'll probably give the protagonist and actually even the vampires both a 3 out of 3, just because I like both of them equally.
Agreed. Like for me, when they switch over to talk about the vampires, like of course we're gonna love the protagonist, but when they switch over to talk about the antagonist, about what's going on with them, I was totally fine with those scenes because I love those characters too.
Yeah, even the ones I don't actually care about, like the Egyptian and the shapeshifters, like even those, I like even just enjoying the scenes with them in it, I really liked. And honestly, I couldn't really see a better fit between the two.
Agreed. All right, Mike, talk to us about those two different groups. Travis and I, we're around the 1 hour mark, so let's take our shot or a big sip of beer. Even Mike, do yours after you speak.
Okay. Like when it comes to the vampires, I like the fact that you had the different factions. It was kind of cool to me to see because in the games they never really touch on that. I mean, you do fight in one of the games, you fight an Egyptian god, but that's a whole other thing. But it's not anywhere near where Castlevania 3 takes place. I thought that was cool. Also, it kind of shows you how, even though he's considered the king of the vampires, I mean, there's so many different factions with all their own vying. Like the same idea, you have a bunch of people who join an army, but they're only there to seek their own ends. And in this case, their end was not kill everybody and get rid of your food source. So, I mean, I like them. I mean, when it comes to heroes, I really do like the way the three heroes played together. I mean, I thought that was awesome, especially coming from the game where I'm a big fan of the third one, and here you have all three of the characters fighting together, which in the game you can't have.
So, as a video game adaptation, would you say they did very well? The show is very good, but I want to hear about how well they took it from the series and brought it into the show. How well did they meld the two together? Did you think they did a good job in doing that?
I think they did a pretty good job. I'm taking another shot of Fireball here.
All right, dope. All right. So, last thing we're going to talk about for Castlevania before we move on, before we talk about our review as well, our rating. Where do you want it to go? They finished it up. They've killed Dracula. You would think that'll be the end, but they definitely set things up. Where do you want the show to go? Or where do you think it'll go? For me, I think it's going to be very interesting because Trevor Belmont, it looks like he and Sifia, they're definitely going to be working together. While Alucard, I don't know if he's going to be in the third season. But it looks like they're going to be working together, and it looks like Isaac and Carmilla, are they going to fight against each other? Maybe. It'll be interesting to see because Isaac wants to raise an army, and she is definitely raising an army because she's got Hector on a short leash, quite literally. So I'm very excited to see where the show is going to go. Mike, talk to us about where you think the show is going to go, or where do you expect it to go?
I mean, unfortunately, I don't know. I mean, Curse of Darkness is much different than where they're going to follow because they're going a whole different, which is what essentially would be the next game of the storyline in the timeline. But I think it's going to be Carmilla and Isaac going against each other, building the army. You're probably going to come back to the characters like maybe 4 years later or something, giving them enough time to build the armies. Because in the games, Trevor and Sifia get together. They do have a child, which I can't remember his name, but eventually what leads to Simon Belmont, which is the character in the first Castlevania. So I mean, then you can tell that's where they're headed. I'm hoping that they get to Symphony of the Night, which is when Alucard shows up again, and that whole area was just Rondo of Blood with Richter Belmont, and then Alucard comes back right around that time. That's where I want them to go to. But they talked about
wow,
cool. On record.
Oh, okay. So the first game has, you said Simon Belmont?
Yeah, I'll give you in the NES games, the Castlevania 1 and 2 are Simon Belmont, which is Trevor Belmont's grandson.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Christopher, if I remember correctly, Christopher Belmont is Trevor's son, which is the Game Boy game, if I'm remembering correctly.
So Castlevania 3 Dracula's Curse, is that considered like a prequel then, because you're playing as Trevor? Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
It was to show you more how things got started.
So this is a X-Men universe of them kind of like switch up the timelines constantly, kind of thing.
Kind of, but like one scene that I wanted to mention is when you're looking at the show, there's part when they go in Trevor's house and they're going down through the place when he gets the vampire killer whip. There's a picture of the wall of Leon Belmont, or they mention Leon Belmont. He's the first Belmont, and he's the one that originally fought. I want to say his name was Matthias, the guy that becomes Dracula.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
And he becomes Dracula because I want to say his wife died when he was out to war, and he was fighting for God, and he couldn't understand how God could turn his back on him while he's fighting for his cause, essentially like the Crusades, which, if you look at history, they're not really fighting in God's cause. And that idea, and that's why he starts to turn to the dark side, essentially, and teams up with death and goes after a vampire to try to find the ability to get real power.
That's actually an interesting concept.
It's I mean, like I said, watch that Castlevania Timeline. Gamer Thumb TV is the channel, but on YouTube, really freaking good videos all about Castlevania and the storyline.
Oh, wow.
It's long, like 4 or 5 videos, but it's really good.
Yeah, no, I've seen most of them. Yeah, they're pretty long, and it's a decent amount of episodes, but they go in very well depth in them.
It's
Travis.
the best that I've seen for at least if you want a really good in depth of what the whole story is.
They go into every game, into what's canon, what's not. They go into all the characters. They do a really good job of it. Travis, talk to us about what you want to see, what you think will happen.
So what I want to see is kind of a pickup of where they left off with Trevor and, sorry, I can't remember her name, Scythia? Or Scythia?
Is the liquor hitting you too?
Yep.
A little bit on the hard side. I want to see it where it picks up from them and then goes on from there. Whether it be the main protagonist, I can't remember her name now.
Wait, what?
The main, not protagonist. Antagonist.
Oh, Carmilla?
Carmilla, or whether it be the church. Like, either way, if they fought them together and maybe added in like a side character at the side to be like their third wingman, I think it'd be kind of a cool concept. But I guess even if they went into the future and waited until their grandson was born and then went in and fought the vampires, it'd also be kind of cool. So, but no, I really, like, they've got me so enroped in the story now that I really want to see how Trevor and Scythia, like, venture from here.
Okay, so before we move on, we're going to talk about our rating for the show. For our Trash Talk rating scale, we have 1 being this made us throw up, 2, this made us go to sleep, 3, this entertained me, 3.5 is it really entertained me, 4, I liked it, 4.5, I really liked it, 5, I loved it, 5.5 is like it's in your top 20, in this case it'll be top 20 of shows of all time, and 6 out of 6 is top 10 of, for this case, a show of all time. For me, I don't watch a lot of anime. I watch more anime than some people, and I definitely watch less anime than some people. I only watch anime if it really hooks me, and this is one of the shows that really hooked me. And this show, recently, just for fun, I wrote out my top 10 favorite shows of all time, and this made top 5, so I'm going to give it a 6 out of 6. It's short enough that it doesn't feel like a chore to watch. The action in it is superb. But it's more than just action, it's about the story, and the characters are very well done, as well as the animation style. So this is an easy 6 out of 6 for me. Travis, talk to us about Raiden.
So this is going to be a 5.5 for me, and it's not that I hated the show or anything, but it's like, because of course all the characters well written, the action was well written, like there's nothing unwell written. It's just, it's not quite in my top 10, so definitely a good show, highly recommend it.
Yes, you really loved it. Yeah,
I
a
really
5.5 is a good rating.
Exactly.
5.5, you really loved it.
absolutely amazing, just not quite my top 10.
All right, Mike, talk to us about ratings.
I give it a 4. I mean, I liked it. You know, I'm a big Castlevania fan. It definitely isn't anywhere in my top list, but I really had fun watching it, and it kept me entertained.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, well, that is our Castlevania review. Hopefully, we didn't spoil too much. I don't think we really spoiled that much, but
little
definitely
bit.
check.
It's not one of those things where you're watching it for the story. You're watching it because it's entertaining. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. So definitely, we all definitely recommend it. So check it out on Netflix if you get the chance. But now we're gonna wrap up our show with our last couple segments of the show. First, we're gonna talk about comic of the week. So for our comic of the week, we're gonna talk about something that you would think would be very different than what we've been talking about, but it's not. It is Moon Knight from the Dead. Travis, you're gonna read this for next time. Travis, you're behind on comics of the week, but you're gonna actually start catching up, or I'm gonna go to your house and shoot you.
Hey, I read the Deadpool one.
You
Out
read
of the
one out
three-
of the 5.
Three.
Okay, 3 comics I've recommended you, but this is Moon Knight from the Dead. It's not very long, as you can see here. It's really short.
They can't see, by the way.
Oh yeah, our audience can't see, but Moon Knight from the Dead, it's a very short read. I read it just when I was sitting in a car just traveling. I wrapped it up in less than an hour. And the only reason it was an hour is because I was trying to savor it as much as possible. It's very well done. Moon Knight from the Dead introduces a lot of new Moon Knight costumes. It introduces his black and white costume because he used to just have an all-white costume.
I thought it was all silver.
Or silver, white, whatever. But this one is a white and black mix, but also a new suit that he goes on some investigations for, where he wears a suit, not like his Moon Knight suit, but quite literally a suit, a white suit with his Moon Knight mask, and that's it. And he wears it on more of like Sherlock Holmes detective investigations. And from the Dead, Moon Knight from the Dead is very interesting because it's not a superhero comic that he's always going up against crazy, super powered villains. He's going up against either supernatural elements, like he goes up against a gang of punks that are ghosts, and he has to find a way to defeat ghosts. He goes up against things that affect his mind. He goes into like a limbo situation. And there's at one point he's trying to save a girl who's in a tower of different thugs that are all drugged out, and he has to go up many skyscrapers to kill him and beat him. This comic has some of the best lines from it, and it kind of represents Moon Knight the best of the of the comics, because if you've read Moon Knight, you can just pick up from this and just keep going. It's very well written, but also it talks enough about the character that you've not read before that you can just pick up from here as well. So this is an easy recommendation, and why I'm recommending Moon Knight from the Dead is that it's written by Warren Ellis, who wrote Castlevania, so you know you're getting a well-written comic. It's short, it's sweet, it's very well written, good art, and it's just great. So Travis, this is my recommendation for a week. It is Moon Knight from the Dead.
All right, I will try to read this and the other 2 that I have not yet read.
Yeah. All right. Now we are on Trash Talk Podcast Game of the Week. Mike, take it from here.
All right. Well, for this week, you guys had volunteered me to pick out a game, and I did Cosmic Star Heroine, which is an indie game for PS4 and Switch and also PC. I was just looking up, unfortunately not an Xbox One. It's essentially like a love letter to fans of Chrono Trigger and 16-bit RPGs. I played it earlier this year, and I just had a blast with the game. It's mostly a turnstile RPG, but it's completely full of references to Star Wars and other science fiction and pop culture things. It's just a really fun little game.
Okay, cool.
Also short.
Yeah, how short, you said?
15 hours, 10 to 15.
Okay, so it's not like so short that you don't feel like you got ripped off of your money, but it's not like a game that's going to rip off all your time.
It's enough where you're not going to, like, it's not like a long RPG. You have a story, it goes through, but it's well worth it.
Okay, good. All right, so that's our recommendation for Game of the Week, which is Comic Star Heroine. Now we are in One Show in a Movie, where we recommend ourselves, but also the audience, a show or movie that we've been watching recently. So for this episode, Travis, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Oh, crap, I had a movie in mind, and I just forgot about
All
it.
right, well, I'll speak. For this episode, I have a two-parter. I have Tokyo Ghoul, which I know you're a bigger anime fan than I am, so I want you to check that out. For this, I want you to check out season 1, because season 1 is terrific. It's about a character with a lot of anime. He's just a normal guy who he becomes part of something bigger than he actually is. He accidentally becomes part ghoul. In this world in Japan, the world is kind of against ghouls. It's humans versus ghouls, but he is the only character that is part ghoul and part human, so he's from both worlds as he accidentally becomes part ghoul. And it's a great show. I'm recommending season 1 because season 2 is okay, and season 3, from what I've heard, because I haven't bothered to watch season 3, is not good. But season 1 is very good for Tokyo Ghoul. I'm recommending that because we're doing an anime episode. But as I said in the last episode we did, I'm also watching Umbrella Academy, which will be our next episode, where we'll be talking a whole review on Umbrella Academy. Mike, is there anything you've been watching recently that you want to recommend?
Yes, I stumbled upon a show. I think it started in 2006. Eureka. It was a science fiction, sci-fi show. It's on
Absolutely love
Amazon
that show.
Prime, but it's actually really damn good. Like, I was surprised how much I'm enjoying it.
Talk to us about what the show's about.
Essentially, you have your average guy who's a cop who ends up driving into the small town, which is essentially kind of like the idea of Area 51, but a town where they're all, not with aliens, but they're building new things and all the different technology that are advancing so far from where we are currently, and just all the different random things that happen on a daily basis. But the show is funny. It's very entertaining. Like, I've been having a blast. And it's also a shorter season. They're only about 13 episodes each season, and it has like 5 seasons.
And where can people find that?
Amazon Prime.
Okay, cool. That's Eureka. Travis, you've seen it, so briefly talk about Eureka and then also something else you've been watching recently.
Honestly, it's been a long time since I've seen Eureka, but I absolutely loved it, in particularly like the science of it. And I mean, of course, it's like a crazy science, like stuff that we wouldn't be able to develop as of yet, but stuff that could be developed in the future. So I absolutely loved it, and just the comedy of it and the like actual realness of it. But the show I'm going to recommend is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., in particularly the first season, because honestly, if you can get through the first season, I think you'll be kind of hooked for the next couple seasons at the very least. And it's a very good show. It's got, like, of course, some mild superpowers, but nothing crazy, like, of course, like Superman or anything like that, or even Captain Marvel, as we recommended in the last season. But it's got a couple different like superhero elements to it, and it's got a lot of other actual like agents to it. So
Yeah, no, good show. All right, we're gonna move on to, we have 2 different people that called in or emailed in for our junk mail section. But while I talk about that, Travis and Mike take a big gulp or a shot, whatever you want, of your drink while I talk about our questions for this week. So this week we have Karina calling in for a day or 2 ago. By the time this episode came out, it'll be a week or so ago, was International Women's Day. Talk to us about the best female character, in your opinion, in a movie or show. Travis, do you want to start?
let's see.
I can talk.
Go
All
ahead.
right. So I'm going to talk about Ellen Ripley from the Alien series. She is one of the only female characters in it, but by the end, she's always the last one remaining, and she's going up against great odds, which is the aliens, the xenomorphs, which are just slaughtering everyone. But she's also going up against 80s stereotypes, which is male-dominant action films. But she is the lead character in those, which a female-led action film is very rare for that time. But in the first movie, she does a very good job of playing the character that's trying to fight against the horror that is this xenomorph that's trying to escape. She's trying to escape and try to live throughout this experience. And by the second movie, Aliens, she's kind of become a hardened badass that's trying to help the other characters defeat these characters and just wipe them out. She's kind of become a badass of her own, but she's not invincible. She has flaws of her own, and that's why I think she is definitely at least in the top 5 of best female characters of all time. Mike, do you have anything?
Well, since we were mentioning Resident Evil earlier, I just go kind of with Alice from the Resident Evil series, just because she is a badass and character, and because it's all that can come to my mind after all the beer I've been drinking. So
yeah, fair enough. All right. Oh, I haven't seen this series, so talk briefly about why she's badass.
Well, I mean, in the first movie, she's a secret agent that loses her memory and then ends up regaining it as the movie goes on, but still has her instincts of how to like kill the zombies and use weapons and fight. And as later on, she gets powers and ends up becoming like a superhero, essentially.
Okay, cool.
Movies some days they're definitely worth it.
Yeah, definitely. I just spilled my beer all over the floor, so I'm a little pissed off. All right, Travis, while I sulk over here in misery and torment about how he spilled beer all over my nice carpet. All right, Travis, talk to us about, just at the moment, it doesn't have to be overall, but just talk to us about a good female character.
So, Furiosa from Mad Max Fury Road. God, I cannot talk anymore.
Fair enough.
She is an absolute badass character, and despite the fact that she only has one arm, she manages to accomplish so much in such a short amount of, like, a film. And, like, she's surviving in a world, the apocalypse world, full of dominant men, of course. And she's, like, incredible. She can fight with anybody. She can drive with anybody. Absolutely incredible character. And, like, no one I respect more.
Okay, that's good. All right, our last of our junk mail comes in from Evan. Because we had, at this point, a couple weeks ago, the Super Bowl happened. What is, in your opinion, at the moment, what is your favorite sports movie because of the Super Bowl that happened a couple weeks ago? For me, I am going to say, what is my favorite? Mike, do you have anything?
I can't even really think of any
fair enough.
right now.
Travis?
Gridiron Gang.
What the hell is that?
It's a football team that's created out of a bunch of not convicts, but
Is that the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie?
exactly that one.
Okay, I'm aware of the movie. Yeah.
So to be honest, that's the only one I can remember off the top of my head. But it was actually a good movie, and that's probably why I can remember it off the top of my head, because it had a lot of heart to it and a lot of emotion, and like the characters in it were pretty decent, even though they had flaws, of course, because as every character does.
All right, fair enough. For me, because it's the only one I can remember at the moment, it is pretty good. 42, which stars words. I can't speak English. Which stars Chadwick Boseman as Jackie Robinson, and Harrison Ford plays the owner of the Dodgers, which brings Jackie Robinson on as the first African American baseball player in MLB history. And that's a great movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, but from what I remember, yeah, it's pretty good. It's good. And also, it's one of the only sports movies I can remember at the moment. Mike, do you have anything?
Oh, the only movie that really came to my mind, which I've never seen before, is Draft Day, so I really can't recommend it. It just popped in my head. That's all I got.
Is that... What's
Kevin Costner film. I have never seen it, but I know of it.
Oh, yeah, I also haven't seen it, but I'm aware of it. All right. Well, thanks, Evan, for the question that we kind of poorly answered. All right. But now we're going to go into our last segment of the show, and what I think is one of our most fun segments of the show, which is Duke It Out or Puke It Out. This is where you have to duke it out in a movie debate unless you can puke it out, which means you have to puke, in Travis's case, all over my floor the first episode of our show.
We didn't even make it that far in the first episode, just to be clear.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, this is Duke It Out, Puke It Out. The rules are, I'm going to give you 3 questions. And for this, feel free to email us at trashtalkpodcast@gmail.com or tweet at us to give us a recommendation for a movie debate question. And my contestants, Travis and Mike, don't know what these questions are. but they're going to have to try to beat it, and they're going to have. Travis, can I have your phone so I can have the timer? They're going to have half a minute to debate on each one, and then they'll have 15 seconds for a rebuttal for each one. And after the 3 rounds, I'll say who the winner is, and the loser has to take a shot. So, Mike, you are our guest star. Would you like to be the person who goes first or second? If you go first, that means you get to pick first, obviously, and you have a little bit of edge because you get to choose what you want to debate over. But if you go second, you have a little bit more you can rebuttal against. What would you like to do?
Second.
Oh, he's going to go second. Okay. So, Travis, you're going first. Where's my questions? Okay, Travis. What is a franchise that should die forever?
Ooh, die forever. That's a good question. I think, honestly, simply because they shouldn't have ever started in the first place, I'm going to go with Ugly Dolls.
The Ugly Doll movie that's going to come out later this year?
Exactly. Because, honestly...
All right, I'm going to start your timer. Yep, go.
They should have never started in the first place because simply, without the exception of the Lego movie, I don't think any, like, movie based off any toy is going to be, like, incredible. And the fact that they're going to try to build it off of Ugly Dolls, which were never even popular in the first place, as far as I can remember.
Not really.
And they're just going to try to create a whole movie off that is a terrible, terrible idea. So, honestly, I think it should die as soon as it starts, and it should just end.
All right. That was Travis. You did 28 seconds. Mike, what franchise should die forever?
Huh. I thought you were having a rebuttal on that, so I was like, okay, I never heard of that. But I never heard of that franchise before.
It's not a franchise yet, unfortunately.
That was a pretty good pick. My brain is just not working that good right now.
Best of luck to you, my friend.
God, I don't have anything. I'm just too buzzed to think of anything.
Okay. So,
that's an easy question. My brain's not here right now.
All right. Well, that round is going to go to Travis. All right.
That's more my land shark.
All right. Question number 2. I can't believe I'm saying this. A Hello Kitty movie is in the works at New Line Cinema. What kids' cartoon should get its own movie? This one is going to be starting off with Mike. What kids' cartoon?
Real random one, just because it's the first thing that popped in my head. Captain Planet could get its own movie. Why? Because right now we do have people that are caring about the environment, and it's something that somebody's going to have nostalgic for. And, I mean, the premise is kind of cool. You have a guy, maybe take away all the fact it's all this PSA, public service announcement, but, you have these kids that unite together and put their rings, and you have Captain Planet. Well, I'm buzzed right now. That's what I'm going to go with.
All right. Travis, what kids' cartoon should get a movie?
You know what? I am going to go with Dexter's Laboratory.
Ooh.
Just simply because I found that show as a concept so interesting as a kid. Like the gadgetry. Actually, I think at one point, if I can remember vaguely, they were fighting with mechas, like kind of in anime, in the show. Because he went to Japan for reasons I cannot honestly remember. So, all in all, that show was incredible. I loved all the characters. So, honestly, I think that one would be a pretty good choice.
Okay, and stop. Okay, Mike, you have 15 seconds. You can either just keep buffing up your own pick, or you can attack Travis's opinion about why it's wrong. That's up to you, but you got only 15 seconds.
I'll just buff up my pick because I don't even remember what his pick was. I told you I'm not used to drinking very much, so
no, fair enough.
Especially not drinking and thinking usually don't go well together. But I'm just gonna say Captain Planet because a lot of times we bring back something from the '90s. There's a lot of nostalgic for it. And there's a lot of people that will jump onto it. So that's my buff.
Okay, fair enough. Travis, let me stop this. Travis, same with you. Either buff up your pick or attack his own pick.
I have absolutely no idea what Captain Planet
Planet
is.
Oh my god.
So I'm going to buff up mine again and say it's from the early 2000s. It was on Cartoon Network. It's rememberable, and I absolutely loved it. So I think a very good adaptation of it.
All right, and our last question is video game or video game series that is in needs of a movie. Travis, it's gonna be you.
Ooh, that's a tough choice.
Yeah.
Let's think here for a second.
And also, Mike and myself, let's take a big swig of our beer or a shot if you want. While Travis goes into what should be a video game or video game series that needs a movie.
You know what? I'm going to go with Titanfall. And simply because even though I've only played the Titanfall series, like the game, for maybe a few minutes at most, I really like the concept of the mecha versus humans or other mechas. And I think that as a live action movie adaptation would be kind of a cool concept rather than just a video game. Or maybe even a TV series, I guess, would be more my pick for it. And no, I like add some characters because it doesn't really have any. Dick.
All right, Mike. Whenever you're ready, go into the video game or video game series that needs a
One
movie.
Popped in my head immediately, which would be great for a movie, is Dead Space. It's a
good.
science fiction horror game, or essentially kind of survival horror, but not really survival. But it essentially takes place. You're on an abandoned spaceship full of aliens that pretty much take over carcasses, dead bodies, and create. I mean, it could just be a really awesome thriller horror movie where you're in, just follow this one character. He's traversing through. He's getting communications via the walkies, and everything is all messed up. And the whole time he's hallucinating and seeing people that aren't really there. It would make a great movie, I think.
And that was 29 seconds. Good work. All right, Travis, you got 15 seconds to attack his pick or buff up your own.
All right, so as far as Dead Space goes, you're seeing ghosts. So, like, in reality, like, no one cares about ghosts. We've seen them a million times.
There's only one ghost, though.
One ghost, but even in, like, a million, you've seen them. You know what they are. They're not that hard to beat, because all you gotta do is imagine that they're not there.
Only
And
one is a ghost. The rest are all necromorphs.
and even though I like the idea of the spaceship, like, in reality...
And stop.
Dick.
All right,
He was wrong. There's only one ghost with Nicole. But hey.
Mike, you have 15 seconds. Go, whenever you're ready.
Alright, I'll just buff up mine. I mean, Dead Space, you do have the ghost, but he's only really hallucinating mainly when he sees Nicole. Everything else is these zombie-type creatures that are hunting after him and trying to kill him and eat him and terrible things. And they all come from they morph from the bodies of people.
And now it's 14 seconds. Good work. Okay, so Travis took round one, process of winning by default. Mike took round three. We're going with Dead Space for a video game series that needs a movie. And for round two, Travis wins that round. So, Mike, you got to take a big swig of your beer or take a shot. All right, good. There you go. All right. Well, that was our episode of our Castlevania review. Hopefully you had fun. If you wish, feel free to email us at trashtalkpodcast@gmail.com if you want to send us a junk mail question that you want us to answer, or a debate question that you want us to use for our Duke It Out or Puke It Out sections. Good work, Travis, over there. Or to send in any comments. We are found on Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, and also on YouTube, where we post Trash Talk Let's Play, where Travis and I usually drink and play a video game, usually pretty bad.
Terribly. Just let's be honest, terribly.
Terribly, as in we play terribly, or the game is terrible?
We play terribly.
Yeah, we played pretty terrible. Last week we had a Punisher from 1994. We played the 1994 arcade game.
It's a good game.
Yeah, and we played that. We actually had a lot of fun doing that, didn't we, Trust?
We had so much fun that we died, like, instantly. The first time we did it.
Well, we did
It's
do
an
good.
arcade game. You're meant to die. That's the point. They got to suck up those quarters. But if you're playing on the way I'm assuming you were playing, it's not a problem.
No, we died 3 times in a row, like simultaneously. Like we didn't make it past the first level. I'm saying.
No,
I don't think the game's that hard. I played it a little bit before.
But we were heavily intoxicated while playing. It was the problem.
Yeah, that was the problem. So if you want to see Travis and I stumble through a 1994 Punisher game, go check us out on YouTube. Otherwise, if you want to download our podcast, go check us out on Spotify, Podbean, Stitcher, and hopefully soon iTunes. Check us out on there. If we're not there, well...
Sucks to be you.
It sucks to be you, as Travis said. Mike, where can people find you and also your podcast, Games My Mom Found?
Well, you can find us on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. We also have a Facebook group where I post every day. I post different pictures or whatever the upcoming game that we're playing each week. Because each week we dive into a different retro game. This current week, which depending on when you guys publish this, I'll have published on by Tuesday of next week, which will be Resident Evil 2, the 1998 PS1 version we're playing.
Oh wow, cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, this
game did not. Oh.
by the time this comes out, it'll be not next week because we have a different review. We have Captain Marvel coming out. It'll be the week after. So.
Okay, so by that time we'll be getting ready to do GoldenEye 007.
Oh, you're doing GoldenEye? That's pretty dope.
You are my You're my hero right now. Just to let you know.
Played it. Oh God, I don't think any of us have played it in years. So we're all going back to the first time in years. I just got done rewatch. The movie's on Netflix, by the way. Should be still on by the time you're hearing this recording. So definitely watch it if you haven't. One of the best Bond movies.
Oh,
I'd love to do a James Bond episode at some point now, just to like meet up with this guy.
Netflix will most likely have it till the end of April. Or the beginning of April, if I think. Then they normally get it every year, or just about 2 or 3 months, and then they're all gone. So if you're going to do it, I would do it soon and definitely catch up on some while they're on there.
Oh wow, that's pretty dope.
I watch them every year. They get them. They only have them for I think it's usually 2 months, and I watch them much as I can till they're gone.
Yeah, 007 is like the shit. Not gonna lie.
Yeah,
so,
it is. Oh wow.
Doesn't matter who the actor is. It's just shit.
We really should do a James Bond episode at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know how we'll do it because there's like 25 different movies or whatever. Maybe we'll do multiple.
What you would do is either pick a certain actor, such as Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, the main ones. That's what I'd recommend. Or just and because they kind of follow each one its own like Danny Craig, each one's own set of movies that follow kind of a storyline.
That's actually not a bad idea. We could just do it by actor.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Because each one's really a different era. Like you have the Sean Connery, which is the 60s and the early 70s era. I mean, they're each really their own era.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because Sean Connery's more campy, and the
good movies.
Yeah,
they're much more spy thriller.
Yeah,
like he gets his ass handed to him often, but he also he outsmarts. It's a very different where Pierce Brosnan is much more the action. He's shooting and he's taking people out from distances and doing some much more actiony movie because again it came out in the 90s in a much different time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I've been watching all of them, so I can give you a much better
nice
detail on them.
Yeah, I've only seen the Daniel Craig one, so that would be very interesting.
Oh, you're missing out.
Yeah, no,
you get.
I have a coworker at work who's seen all of them. He's been telling me about all the Sean Connery ones, and I've been wanting to see all of them. I just haven't actually found them yet. But he told me a lot of them are on Amazon, so I should go check them out. But yeah, where was I? Oh yeah, you were talking about your show. Probably I don't remember. I'm a little intoxicated. Where were we, Travis?
We just finished up the fights.
Oh, okay. Mike, do you get to talk about your show?
Yep, I did.
All right, cool. Yeah.
I see you were kidding about.
Oh, good.
If
good
only
stuff.
we knew our own names, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be good.
See, I only had 2 shots and 3 beers, so I'm not too.
You're
not
lucky.
Too hammered. A little bit.
I don't even know where I'm at.
It's a lot for me.
Vaguely over 4 shots and 4
because we've
beers.
done 2 podcasts in a row, so Travis and I are we're on the other side. All right, so if you like this episode, subscribe to Trash Talk Podcast, and also check out Mike on his podcast, which is Games My Mom Found. Mike, thank you very much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it was. And Travis, once again, thank you for being on the podcast here with me. You're kind of forced to be here, but thank you once again for being here.
Honestly, it's always fun, no matter how terrible it is, so I can't complain. And honestly, Mike has been one of the best guests we've had by far.
It's true. Yeah,
with the exception of Mael, but...
Yeah, that was a good episode we did, Mael. But yeah, thank you very much, Mike, for being here to give us a lot of good information about Castlevania, the show and games and stuff. But yeah, hopefully you guys had a fun time doing this. Check us out, and we will see you next time on Trash Talk Podcast and Games My Mom Found. Peace out, guys.
To the future and beyond.
There we go.
Good night.
Bye.